Well, that didn't take very long. I've already got a concern with this tire. Look right here. These things have about 40 miles on them. I drove them from the tire shop to my house, and there's a big knot sticking up right here on this sidewall. Needless to say, that's not good, so I'm getting ready to contact the tire shop and see what we can do about this. All right, well, that didn't take long, did it? That's like the shortest long-term review in the history of tires. So I owe you guys an apology. I had every intention of doing a long-term review on those Milestar AT Pro tires, which I think would have maybe been kind of neat, but plans have changed. It's funny because I shot that video. You know, we talked about the fact that this tire is a 2-ply sidewall. Typically, it's not a problem. I've had a lot of tires in the past with 2-ply sidewalls and never had any flats or punctures out on the trail or anything. So usually it really isn't a problem. Like I said, we talked about how this tire is made in the USA. There's this assumption that if you buy American-made stuff, you're getting higher quality stuff, you know. I don't know, it checked all the boxes, but it's funny because right after I shot those clips that you just saw in the previous video, as soon as I shot those clips, I backed the truck into the barn and I do what I always do, which is get out my torque wrench and start going around the truck and check all the lug nuts. People make mistakes, you know, and you got these young people working at these tire shops and they've got cars and trucks coming in all day long. Sometimes they make mistakes and they don't get the lug nuts torqued all the way. So, you know, I drove the short 40 miles home, and then I always get my torque wrench out and double check them, you know. That way I know that everything is safe before I put my family in the truck. So I was going around the truck checking the lug nuts, and when I got to the driver's side front tire, there it was, right there in front of me, this big bubble coming out of the sidewall. And I'm like, you have to be kidding me. What is this? And I don't know. I mean, it's just strange. Tire had 40 miles on it. I literally drove it from the tire shop here to my house. That's the only place the truck had been. So I don't know if the tire shop employees just didn't notice it or if it happened on the way home. I don't know, but there was an obvious failure of the sidewall. And when I say failure, it didn't blow out yet, but when you've got a bubble coming out of the sidewall like that, obviously the internal construction of the sidewall is starting to let go, which is not good ever, but especially on an 8,000-pound truck that sometimes tows a 26-foot trailer. Not a good situation at all. That's how people end up getting killed. So that is no go. So I called the tire shop back and they agreed to order me a new tire. You know, they didn't give me any issues about it at all. They said, yeah, we'll get you a replacement tire on the way and we'll swap it out for you. But then the rest of the day I thought about it and I'm like, you know, I don't really know if I trust them. I mean, I hate to say that, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Milestar because I have run 3 different sets of the MTs and never had any trouble with them. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably have these AT Pros and don't have any problems with them. But on this particular truck, and what we do with this truck, hauling a lot of weight, pulling a lot of weight, I just don't trust them anymore, you know? I might be able to put 55,000 miles on these tires and never have another problem. But I just don't know that I can do that. Now that this has happened, it's just kind of, I just don't trust them. That's all there is to it. And the other thing is, I showed you how these tires are throwing rocks like crazy. Out of all of the tires that I've reviewed over the years, ATs, MTs, all of it, I've never seen a tire that picks up gravel as bad as this tire. And, you know, all the tires are going to pick up some stones, but this one just seems to be a magnet for them. I mean, when I get out on the pavement, when I get back onto the pavement again, it sounds like you're taking a couple of pieces of Velcro and pulling them apart because of how many rocks are in the tread, you know, going down the road. Or some people describe it as it sounds like a rail car, you know, but I don't know. Anyway, long story short, I'm not super happy with them right off the bat here. I had every intention of giving them a chance, but, you know, when you have something like that happen to the sidewall of the tire, and then you start thinking about it, I'm like, well, maybe it's not such a great construction, you know, in that tire. I don't know. I'm just not going to take the chance on it. I'm not going to put my family and my son's friend in the truck and hook onto this big trailer and load it up and head down the road with 20,000 pounds on tires like that I don't know if I can trust. So I'm going to quit rambling. The point is, the road ends here, no pun intended, for the Milestar Patagonia MT Pro. AT Pro. I just said MT because I have that stuck in my head. The AT Pro. Hey, Tucker. So I called the tire shop back again today, and you know, Milestar's got a 30-day guarantee on the AT Pro. If you're not totally satisfied within 30 days, they'll give you your money back. Basically what they'll do is they'll swap them out for a different set of tires. And normally I'm not the kind of guy to do this kind of thing, because I know they're just trying to offer that guarantee in good faith. You know, they figure most people aren't going to do that. But in this particular case, I'm going to take them up on that offer, and I'm going to swap these out for a different set of tires. I had 3 other tires that were high on my list to review for you guys, so I'll probably go with one of those. And those 3 tires I know are super robust. 3-ply sidewalls, built like tanks, won't have any problems with any of those 3 tires that I end up going with. Guarantee it. So sorry about that. I owe you an apology. People who saw that first video are probably thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I want to know about these tires. I've been waiting for somebody to review these tires. This is going to be awesome. And now here we are. Sorry, I apologize. But this one is kind of out of my control. You know, if I didn't have that sidewall issue that kind of spooked me a little bit, I could probably put up with the gravel flying all over the place. But throw that in the mix. We're just not going to do it. Right, Tuck? So anyway, next clip you're going to see back at the tire shop, get something different. We'll go a different direction. All right, sorry, one more clip before I have these tires swapped out. So the other day I wasn't super happy with the quality of the video. So let's try again, maybe give you a little bit better look at this tire before it goes away. So again, these are 295/70 R18s, in case you're wondering. I put the tape measure on them when I was over there in my concrete portion of my driveway. And on the truck, they are exactly 34.5 inches tall. Nope, they're not. Let me say that again. They're 33.5 inches tall. They're listed at about 34.5 off the truck. But once you put a tire on the truck and you get the weight of the vehicle on there, obviously they're going to be a little shorter. When I measured them, they came out 33.5 inches tall. Like I said, these are 9-inch wide wheels, so you can kind of see how they fit on there. Anyway, the point of this is just to show you one last look at these Milestars. Now look at all the gravel. Look at this. All these pieces of gravel. There's some down in there. There's one over there. Look at all this gravel. There's one there. That's one thing I've noticed driving on these for a few days. They are probably the worst tire that I've ever tested as far as picking up gravel. All kinds of gravel in there. Look at this. Just full of gravel. There's one. So the funny thing about it is, the other day I was getting something out of the back of my truck. Look at that one right there. Oh my gosh. This is a good example. Good example. So I was getting something out of my truck right here, and I had a rock just like this laying right there in the floorboard, just like that. These are what we call number 57s, and they're actually, you know, a fairly good size stone. But I have one laying in there. Only thing I can figure is that the front tire here must have had one of these in the outer edge, and it slung, because I have my windows down like you see right now, probably a little bit farther the other day, and maybe it just slung it at the perfect angle and it bounced off of here and went down inside the truck. Only thing I can figure. But yeah, that's the main story with these tires so far, is they pick up gravel like crazy, like magnets. So that's one reason that I'm getting rid of them. I mean, I understand that all these tires that I review, they all pick up a certain level of gravel, but these right here just seem to be terrible. and they're gonna beat the crap out of the side of my truck at this rate. And if you got somebody sitting in the back seat and the window's down on a nice day and all of a sudden a rock comes in and hits them, that's not gonna be cool either. So yeah, let's see if we can see that knot again. Because of the angle the tire is at right now, it's hard to see it. It's right there, but it's just real hard to see it because of the camera angle. But it hasn't really gotten any bigger. I've had no choice but to drive on it for a few days because I need my truck. And Discount Tire has had my replacement tires on order for 3 days, so I've had no choice but to drive it and just keep a close eye on it. And that knot in the sidewall hasn't gotten any bigger. You know, I mean, I can just kind of rub my hand over it and feel it right there. Feels like it's about the size of a golf ball, but anyway, that's going to be the end of the road here for these. Now, like I said, you know, maybe you could just get a replacement tire in my situation and you'd be fine for 55,000 miles, you know, but I just don't know if I can trust them. Anyhow, there's the last look at the Milestar Patagonia A Pro. Now, like I said, I've been driving on these for a few days because I've had no choice. Road noise has been very minimal, still not loud tire at all. The handling actually is a little squirrely. Don't really experience that with a lot of tires. This one is a little bit squirrely, which surprises me because, you know, we talked about these tread blocks and the way they designed them. But, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, look how, let me see if I can get this to focus here. Look how squishy those tread blocks are. Look at that. So that seems like, it seems like a very soft rubber compound. So even though they've got some pretty cool design in there to help stabilize the blocks, I feel like that the tread is actually a really soft compound. They probably did that for people who out, you know, like out in the West who might rock crawl with these tires or something. You know, you use a softer durometer rubber compound and it's usually pretty good for climbing rocks and off-road obstacles. That's probably why they did that, but anyhow, it feels a little squirrely, like when this truck's going around a curve at, say, 50 miles an hour, you can kind of feel the truck. It just feels like it's skating a little bit, even though it's not really skating. It just kind of gives you that sensation. So I'm wondering, you know, if I had my big trailer behind me, if that would get worse. It probably would. But the noise is not bad. They pick up a lot of rocks. Got that issue with the sidewall. I don't know. Just not super happy with these already, you know. I will say though, this tire right here only had 1.75 ounces of weights on the whole thing. So that's not too bad. I put the entire wheel and tire assembly on the bathroom scale and it comes in at 92.5 pounds. So about 10 pounds lighter than the Falcon Wild Peak AT4 that I was running previously. And I'd say probably a half pound of it is all of this gravel that this tire picks up. There's some positive things going on here. Camera keeps going dark on me, but there's also, unfortunately, some negative things going on here right off the bat too. I mean, for the price I paid for them, not a bad tire, I don't think. But thing is, I'm getting ready to get probably what's going to end up being a much better tire for less money. So there's that. Anyhow, there you go. Milestar Patagonia AT Pro. Back to the tire shop we go. Made it to the Discount Tire. You got to check out what they've got working in here today. This is so cool. It's like an original Land Rover. Check that out. That is really cool. Putting some original style tires back on it. The guy's restoring it apparently. It's going to be neat. Yeah, that is super, super cool. Wow, there's my tire right there. Boom, and just like that, we're rolling on some Yokohama Geolandar AT XD tires. 3+ sidewall. Got a little more void here. We'll talk about these more when we get back to the house. But this is going to be a better tire, I think. Let's go down the road and see how they ride. All right, rolling down the road on the Yokohama Geolandar AT XD tires. I assume that the XD stands for extra duty or extreme duty or something along those lines. Who knows, but it's a heavy duty tire that they are, at least in America, they are sort of advertising it as a commercial grade tire for heavy duty trucks like we're in right now. And so it should be perfect for this application. But my very first impression of these tires, they make some noise. I'm not gonna lie, they are already louder than those Milestar AT Pro tires were. I've got them set at the same pressures that I was running in those Milestars, which is high 50s. Of course, they're warming up a little bit now that we're going down the road. You can see that they're at about 59 psi now. But I like to run my tires just a little bit lower than the door placard pressure when I'm not towing, because it just gives a better ride on these Super Duty trucks. But here we are headed down the road 55 miles an hour, so I'm going to hush here for a moment and let you listen to these tires. Here we go. So like I said, they definitely have more road noise in them than those AT Pros. Granted, this is it's marketed as an AT, but it is a different tread pattern than their typical AT tire that they sell, the AT4. This one obviously is much more aggressive. So, you know, I expected to have some noise. It's not bothering me at all, but I always like to point this out because a lot of people do care about noise. If you're looking for a tire that is whisper quiet, this one is not for you. But I have to say, here at 55 miles an hour, the ride quality isn't bad. They're pretty smooth. I noticed that the technicians that mounted some of these tires did not mount them the way that you normally would. You know, these have the yellow and red dots on the sidewalls to help the installer know how to rotate the tire on the wheel, you know, just to make it easier to balance them. And they didn't do that. At least on one or two of the tires, they didn't do that at all. So, you know, it's possible that maybe they could have done a better job balancing them. But, you know, I'm at 55 and they're not too bad, really. I don't have any vibration or any of that kind of stuff going on. They're rolling pretty smooth, honestly, especially for an aggressive tire of this size. So no complaints there so far. Of course, you can kind of hear the roughness in my voice because it's a Super Duty, and these trucks ride like crap. Regardless of which tire you got on here, these Super Duty trucks ride like absolute crap. So that's why you're probably hearing it in my voice. But the tires are not the problem. They're actually rolling pretty smooth. Got some road noise, not super loud. They'll probably get a little louder as I rotate them. But, you know, honestly, I think the tires also look better on here. I know that's very subjective, but I think these tires look great. Anyhow, there's an update. Let's get to the house, and then we will take a closer look at Yokohama's AT XD. And the awesome thing about it is, you know, I've seen so many reviews on the internet of these tires, but most people are not actually using the tire on a heavy-duty truck. I think I found one guy that's doing some videos with this tire on his truck, but there's just not a whole lot of reviews out there where the tires are actually being put through the paces and used, you know, on a daily basis on a truck. So we're getting ready to fix that. I don't foresee having any problems with these like I had with the Milestars. So these tires are going to be on this truck for a long time, and we're going to get a real good feel for how these perform in all conditions and how they hold up on the truck and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a great opportunity to do a great review for you guys. All right, so let's get back to the house and we'll pull one of these tires off, put it on the tailgate or something, and we'll take a real good look at this thing up close. All right, finally made it back to the house, and I'll tell you what, guys, honestly, I think these tires just straight up look better on the truck. They've got that old school tread design on them, where you've got that tighter pattern on the inside and the big chunky blocks on the outside. But you can definitely tell why it is that they're noisy. Let's talk about it. Well, first of all, there's a rock. That's a pretty big rock. But overall, there's not nearly as many rocks in this tread as there was in that Milestar tire. Let's go check some other ones. Let's go check this front one right here. Yeah, there's a rock. It's trying to fall out on its own. But look, you really just don't see a lot of rocks in there, which is pretty awesome. Now, as far as the tread design, like I was saying, you've got these blocks here that are a little closer together on the inside. On the outside, you've got these big voids that you can stick your whole finger into. But look how they oriented these outer tread lugs almost perfectly perpendicular to the sidewall of the tire. See that? And so that's the reason why you end up getting the road noise. Now, if you look at most tires, even the mud terrain that Yokohama sells, what you'll notice is that these outer blocks, they're kind of angled like this, you know? And so you have to imagine as the tire is rolling over the road surface, the contact is going to gradually come upon the tread block as it's rolling. You would just kind of have to get a mental picture of that. But with this design, where they're just perfectly perpendicular to the sidewall like that, you know, you have the whole edge of the tread block smacking the road. As this thing is rolling, you're getting a lot of friction here, and it just creates more noise. So I'm not 100% sure what Yokohama was thinking with this outer part of the design. I feel like if they had taken these tread blocks and just kind of angled them a little bit, they probably could have reduced a lot of the noise in this tire, while at the same time keeping that pretty awesome traction, you know? But overall, like I said, they're not horribly loud, so it's not that big of a deal. Let me try to get a little closer here so you can kind of see. Not a whole lot of a stone ejector between these tread blocks. Don't really see a whole lot of that. There is a little bit of a design in there that's really kind of hard to see, but do you see those bar looking designs down in there? It's very subtle, but I suppose that would do a little bit to prevent suction of mud and snow. So you can see how you can pin these. Okay, so if you live in an area that's got a lot of snow, you can pin these with studs for ice and snow. All of the tread blocks do have siping, as you can see, so that's nice. You also have these grooves that are cut into the tread blocks as well. Got some grooves here in these center blocks. So you got a lot of grooves, you got a lot of siping. You can pin it for studs or with studs if you want to. You got a nice sidewall design there. It's a nice square blocky looking tire, so it's definitely rugged. It's definitely a rugged tire. It does have a 3-ply sidewall on this particular tire. So again, there's a little bit more weight here because it's a more robust tire, and you can just see how this tread pattern right here was designed to do a little bit of everything. You could almost call this a hybrid tire, I guess, even though they refer to it as an all-terrain XD. You could almost call this an RT or an XT tire, kind of a cross. You certainly could make that argument. Now, other than the road noise and the fact that these don't pick up gravel nearly as bad, it's way too early to give you any more thoughts on them. So we're just gonna have to run these on this Super Duty for a while, tow with them and drive them on the road in the rain and the snow this winter, all that kind of good stuff like we always do. We're just gonna have to use these tires for a while, and then I can give you some honest thoughts on them. But for now, it is what it is. Just a good looking tire that is a lot more rugged, and I don't expect that we're going to have any sidewall issues with this whatsoever. Now, you notice you got a red dot here, kind of interesting, but these dots right here are what I was referring to earlier. You know, you're supposed to use those to kind of help figure out where to align the tire on the wheel. This one, okay, there's a red dot and then there's the yellow dot. All right, so they're actually pretty close together over here. That's kind of interesting. Don't think I've ever seen the yellow and the red dot so close together, because, you know, yellow is supposed to be the opposite meaning of the red dot. One is the low side of the tire, if you want to call it that, and the other one is the high side of the tire, basically just in terms of like the way that it's molded with the weight and all that. So, you know, I was always told that the yellow one is the lightest part of the tire, so that's generally why you want to line it up with the valve stem, because that's usually the heaviest part of the wheel. So you match those two up and it'll give you better results when you go to balance it. At least that's what I was always told, but in this case they're both really close together. Interesting. Now, one quick thing I'll mention while I'm thinking about it. These are the DX4 Recon wheels, and one thing I've noticed is the center caps don't look like that they are, you can't disassemble them basically and open up the center of them. On the wheels I had before this, the Vision Ojos wheels, you could actually take this part right here, like the cover, the center cap part, you could disassemble it and take that out. And the reason you want to do that on these Super Duty trucks is because then you have access to your locking hub. Well, this particular wheel doesn't seem to allow that, so you either have to run it like this or just completely remove the whole center cap and just kind of let it go bare, which doesn't look the best, but maybe it's a little more functional. Just thought I'd mention that. All right, let's get some tech specs off of this tire. So I got the level on there. We're gonna go from the ground up, and it's about 34 inches. Yep, about 34 inches. Now obviously it's off the truck, so we'll have to get another measurement once we put it on the truck. Let's see. Let's check the tread width. Alright, looks like the width of the tread is going to be about 10 inches. That's a pretty nice width for a 295/70. So you got 10 full inches of tread width, 34 inches of height. As you can see the section width, that's where you get the 12/0. Should be about 12 inches from the outside wall to the inside wall there. And of course this is on a 9-inch wheel. So let's check the tread depth. Alright, so the outer lug here is about 21/32. That's pretty deep. That's some pretty deep tread there. See if we can get a measurement from the inside here, because sometimes the inner tread's a little different. Yeah, getting about 18. I'm getting about 18 here in the middle. And like I said, you go out here to these big deep outer lugs and get a measurement, and you get pretty close to 21. So that's pretty common on these tires actually, to have deeper tread out here than what you got in there. But you know, you average that out and you're looking at like 19 to 20, 30 seconds of tread. Now this particular tire does not have a mileage warranty on it because of the nature of the tire, you know, and what they market it as. But Yokohama usually wears pretty well in my experience. So with that much tread depth, I would say that these will probably go every bit of 50 to 60,000 miles on a truck like I've got. And check it out, I mean, that's just a really good looking tire. I like how it's more symmetric. You know, the shoulder of the tire has that nice symmetric look to it. It's a pretty nice combo actually. Now one more thing I want to check while I got this off. How much weight did it take to balance? Well, I don't see any weights yet. There we go, there they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you got about 3 ounces of weight is all you've got on this whole assembly. So Again, 3 ounces of weight on something like this is not too bad. Now, whew, man, it's hot out here. Overall weight. So the 18x9 wheel that I had before with the Falcon Wild Peak AT4 tire on it went 103 pounds on my bathroom scale. Yesterday, before I got rid of those Milestars, I threw those on here and they were 90, almost 93 pounds. They're like 92 and a half, okay? So that tire was about 10 pounds lighter than the Falcon AT4. This combo here is 103 pounds. So this is the exact same weight as the Falcon AT4. Now it is ever so slightly smaller because the Falcon, excuse me, was a 35-12-50. This is more like a 34x12. So this is a very little smaller tire, but you know, it's a really robust tire. So, you know, again, I kind of expected it was going to be a little bit heavy, and you can kind of feel that on the truck. Fuel economy is going to take a little bit of a hit, acceleration, braking, all of that. As I always say, going to take a little bit of a hit, but there's something to be said for having peace of mind. When you've got tires on your truck that you know you do not have to ever worry about, that's pretty awesome. Now let's check out a couple of sidewall markings here. There's the 3 Peak Mountain Snowflake, so this tire should do great in the rain and the snow. Made in Japan, which is what you assume when you buy a Yokohama. So yeah, this one was made in Japan. 29th week of 2024. So these were actually produced almost a year ago. They've been sitting on the shelf somewhere in a warehouse for almost a year now. 3-ply sidewall. Where's this at? Should be right there. You can see the sidewall is a 3-ply sidewall. So again, just a very rugged, heavy-duty tire here with kind of a compromised hybrid kind of tread pattern. So we will see how this Yokohama XD performs on the Super Duty. Like I said, you know, these things are going to see everything imaginable. So I'll be able to give you a really good review on these things. But I'm going to go throw this back on the truck and check all my lug nut torque. And I think I'm going to head in the house because it is smoking hot out here again today. And I'm just kind of tired of sweating. But if you guys have any questions about this XD from Yokohama, post them below and subscribe, like the channel. You'll see more on this tire in the coming months. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later.